Hey everybody, welcome to Monday, and you'll notice Momo is with me again. Momo has become like super snugglebug, right, Momo? You've gone back to your cuddly ways after your dental surgery. Yeah, settle in, buddy. And this is kind of on topic. It isn't just, me showing my cat on YouTube because we're gonna talk socialization and video games and something specifically called parasocial interactions or parasocial relationships, which are defined as sort of one-way relationships someone has with a media personality or character. The way someone watches, say, Oprah Winfrey every day when she was on TV as a talk show, but Oprah Winfrey had never met the person, right? That sort of thing. That's a parasocial relationship. And I got thinking over the weekend how video games complicate this whole deal because you may have seen the news that the various levels of law enforcement finally went in and broke up the whole thing in Ottawa. I don't know what to call it. Like my next door neighbor is a retired trucker, so I want to be super careful about the way I talk about truckers because he's like a super nice guy. So I don't want to make it seem like truckers are bad people or anything like that. There's a few hundred people, the thousands and thousands of truckers that are in Canada. So I'm going to be really careful. But you may have seen the news about what was going on there, right? I forgot to do the Patreon thing, Momo. Let's do it now. To help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. If you want to support this kind of wonky stuff. Because the other thing that I've been talking to people a lot lately is fears of socialization, and not because of COVID, not because of lockdowns, not because of anything like that, because of this whole cancel culture thing. And because people are so afraid, yes, Momo, snuggle in. People are especially guys, but I know women and non-binary people who are afraid of getting labeled different things. Like it's almost like the term like creepy for guys is taken on the same kind of connotation that something like slut or something does. No, it's not quite the same, but it's the same sort of social damage. Gotta wipe Momo's nose. But that's a tangent. I've been having these discussions with people who are afraid to interact socially, and there's a lot of people out there because it's not just a fear of rejection. It's a fear of that creepy label, right? And media, especially something like video games, is a safer place to have a social interaction. You guys may have seen my Far Cry content on Twitch. I'm going to be switching to Horizon Forbidden West this week. But you may have seen my Far Cry 6 content, and I spent a lot of time talking to a psychotic digital chicken. And I was so taken by this psychotic digital chicken named Chicharron. I put a rooster in the back of my my background on my little imaginary friend's background. And that's a form of and I'm like, is that a parasocial relationship? Because Chicharron in the game knows I exist. I tell Chicharron to go somewhere, and Chicharron goes. I tell him, get them, Chicharron, and Chicharron goes and kills the dude, right? That's not one way. In that digital world, Chicharron knows I exist. Chicharron responds to me. Chicharron is my amigo. So is that a parasocial relationship? Or is that something different? Because it doesn't fit the strict definition of parasocial relationship, right? Now, why does this matter? Well, because when we talk about things and we talk about the impact that video games have, and when we like to flatten everything all media interacts the same way, we end up getting some weird results. And the thing I find interesting is that when it's a parasocial relationship where, say, a teenage girl is super into BTS, people see that as harmless. But when it's a gamer who's, really into, say, a Cortana from Halo, all of a sudden that becomes a problem. And no one's questioning why. And the interactivity is often cited, I maintain erroneously, as the reason why it's different, as the reason why, being obsessed with a boy band member is somehow okay, but, doing erotic fan art of a waifu isn't. I mean, people get pretty raw regarding boy bands. I remember how people used to talk. Like when I was a teenager, I admit I still am strange, but I was a strange teenager, and I did have moments where I sat back and listened to the way other people were talking about these real life people and found it odd. And then, when I was on TV, it's an interesting thing to be on the other side of a parasocial relationship, because I'd meet somebody at a convention, or, I talk to people who watch my YouTube content, and it's this, oh my God moment, like, oh my God, it's really you, this whole thing. And it's interesting because I want to give someone a good experience. I feel like I'm catching up. It's a really interesting thing. And at that point, it's no longer a parasocial relationship. Now you're actually having a conversation. And then I started thinking about Twitch. It's like, it is not a parasocial relationship when I am sitting there reacting and responding to people's chat comments. That's a relationship. That's social. There's nothing parasocial about that. There's nothing parasocial about one person interacting with another real person, even if it's through an avatar. That's a social relationship. So we may be messing something up here in terms of understanding how these things work by lumping video games into the whole concept of parasocial relationship. We may need a completely different term for an actual fictional relationship you have with a murdering rooster, like I have, my amigo Chicharron. I'm being silly about this, obviously, and I'm using a psychotic rooster because it's less creepy than if it were a person. But it's funny. There was a period of time when the Dragon Age games were huge that I'd meet another Dragon Age fan, and they were usually guys, and we'd end up having this discussion about which romance option we picked in the game. And, me and this guy ended up romancing the same character. And in real life, would that be awkward? Like, I stopped and thought about that, and it's like, I don't think anything of it. To me, it's the same thing as asking somebody who their favorite Batman villain is, because you can learn a lot about a person that way. But when you are actually interacting and making choices and having a relationship with someone that is interactive in a game, is it parasocial or is it gamified socialization? And this was further complicated for me. I've been talking to a lot of people lately with, the game stuff and, the Leanna Cares service and various things. There's been a lot of socialization via Zoom for Leanna lately. And the number of people who have sort of dropped to me that they have trouble either socializing in general or specifically talking to women. And yes, I am acutely aware that I do not read entirely female. Uh, I'm good with that. I didn't used to be good with that. That's something I've accepted about myself. But, you know, to most people, I tend to read female. And so I said, you're talking to me. And they'd say it's different. And why is it different? Well, because we're talking about games, or because it's a structured environment, or, we're talking about it's task oriented, and therefore it's when you're talking to a particular type of person about something, it's not the same as talking to a particular kind of person. And this has sat with me and just captivated me so much, because it came from multiple people, right? And there's meaning in this. And I'm going to talk a bit more about this on Wellness Wednesday maybe. But I don't think that's any different than, playing a video game like, the yakuza games where you do the cabaret mini games and all these like cute little Asian girls and Majima is having the pretend boyfriend conversations, and you can like screw up and they sort of laugh at you or go oh and all that stuff. It's safe, but it's still sort of simulating a social interaction. And since all the research on parasocial relationships say that they're fine, they can be healthy, they're not harmful, they can't replace real life socialization, but they can fill a hole from real life socialization, then that means that the real life socializations that are causing people to feel like they can't talk to women, or they can't talk to people in general, or they don't know how to socialize, or all that stuff. The problem is their real life social interactions giving them that impression, right? Because when they talk to me, they're fine. And, I'm more than happy to be an unperson in that regard. I think a lot of it is because, you guys watch my YouTube videos, and so you feel like you know me. And to an extent, you do know me, right? You know things I like. I hate The Last of Us 2. I jokingly hate The Sims, right? You know things about me, my cat's names, you know what a room in my house looks like because I record from it. The minute that becomes a chat on Twitch or on Twitter or something like that, that is no longer parasocial. That is social. And it's almost like the way we talk about this stuff is giving people an entirely false impression of what their social skills are, because they go and they interact on forums and on Twitch and on YouTube and on Twitter and stuff like that, Facebook, terrifying. That's interacting. That's socializing. People will still tell you to piss off on those platforms, right? But then they go out and try to do face-to-face stuff, and it's really fraught. And I think part of it is that we're in these sort of, forgive me if I use a term that offends anyone, but, geek micro communities, geek microcosms where social skills are at a deficit for everybody of all genders. And I think some responsibility for an awkward reaction, an awkward response, is ending up on a person that didn't do anything wrong but was awkward in their approach, if that makes any sense. Like somebody goes and talks to somebody. It's a guy talking to a girl for this example, but it could be anybody, right? I mean, I've had interactions with people and I'm like, wow, Did I come off the way off the right way there? Did I leave a really bad impression? Did that joke not land or something like that? And I'll kind of go, all right. Feel weird about it for 15 minutes, then get on with my life, right? But other people's get really hung up on those potential faux pas, those mistakes. And everybody makes them. Everybody makes them. But so many people are so afraid that it's the end of the freaking world when they make them, instead of just learning how to untangle yourself when something like that happens, because it is a skill. And, you know, sometimes people reject you and it's not about you, you know, it's about the other person. Maybe they're having a bad day, or they're insecure, or they got stuff going on that you don't know about, or, you know, or they got their own damage. But rejections are not always about you. And everybody goes through rejection. But it's not about rejection, is it? It's that cancellation thing. And it's that shaming thing. And I had a brief exposure to it. I was it 8th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I asked this guy to dance at a school dance, and he said no. And then he told everybody I asked him, and everybody made fun of me. I was like, oh my God, you asked him to dance? And I lied and I said no, because I wasn't gonna, you know, I shouldn't have lied. Probably I should have said yes and just took it. But at the time I thought, if they're going to shame me for this, I'm not going to take that. I'm just going to say, no, I didn't. But I mean, it was really embarrassing, because big deal. I asked somebody to dance, and that was like a brief moment into me being a guy, right? Not the only one, but, and it was friggin' horrible. Now, you know, was it so horrible that I never asked anybody to dance ever again? No. I'm just like, well, those people were fucking jerks. But I think that the order of magnitude and the ability to shame is so much greater now, because people have these devices that, you know, back in my day, you had call waiting, so you could have one person on one line and one person on the other line, and that was pretty much it. We didn't have like group text chats or things like that, or social media where everybody could pile on somebody where they could see it. But that doesn't take the urge, that didn't create the urge to shame, right? Like, it's almost like the people that gamers are afraid of are the ones needing the social check. That if someone is awkward, that doesn't give you the right to be mean, you know? I have always found that, oh, this creepy guy came up to me and hit on me. I admit, I've always seen that as something of a humble brag, right? That's its own form of, well, I'm going to take the attention, not have to do anything about it, and not be judged by, you know, the status of the guy, because I'm acting like I'm too good for him. That's how I always saw that. And as somebody who has had my share of assaultive, that's a word I learned from the whole thing in Ottawa, assaultive behavior when I was doing booth babe stuff. Creeps do exist. Gropers do exist. There was one convention that 3 different people yanked that chain on that Leia bikini, and it's jarring because it pulls you forward by the neck. And when the third guy did it, I almost snapped. I almost committed violence, because I was so done, you know, with the ass grabbing and the groping and the bad breath and the this and the that. It was just, for whatever reason, a really bad show. And they happen. Others were fantastic and there were no problems. that particular costume tended to get me more grief than some of the others. I think because when you're cosplaying, Power Girl or Knockout, which is a Jack Kirby New Gods character. Well, Secret Six as well. Now, but or my version of Batwoman, which was like huge. Even characters like Poison Ivy, who are very sexually aggressive. You get a different energy from people, and those are the characters I used to cosplay. And I thought, that Leia bikini was the same, because to me that bikini always was associated with Jabba treating her like crap and then her murdering him dead with the chain, right? That's what that thing meant to me. Big semiotics lesson. Doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. I had more problems in that cosplay than anything else combined, except for Brandy from Liberty Meadows. And that costume is just jean shorts and a t-shirt and keds. I don't know why. Maybe it's the whole girl next door thing, but this sort of thing's real. And to me, that's creepy. Not a guy coming up and being awkward. That, was every fourth guy at Comic-Cons. And that's fine. And I do think we could do something about this in gaming. I do think that we have to recognize that it's not just men who are socially awkward in the gaming community. It's almost everybody, because everybody in the world has some level or another of social awkwardness. Some of us just hide it better than others. We're more practiced. So if we do something and it's not working, we have our kind of go-to outs or go-to crack a joke and break the tension kind of thing. But yeah, there's too low a bar for labeling someone creepy. And I think we could do something about that. That's something that as a community we can go, watch that word. And that's actually something we're working on, a Song of Sparkle Muffin Discord server. And that's actually going to be a code of conduct. And we're actually doing like rules and then code of conduct. And that's like, enforced behaviors and then expected behaviors. Like, this is our ideal. But yeah, we actually put in, watch the word creepy. Don't throw it around like, rabbit's poop. That's not the wording. But because I've been thinking a lot about this, and it's great that games have a place for people to go to simulate socialization. And it's real. It gives your brain similar rushes. I mean, I'm like, Chicharron, buddy, over here. Like, come on, man. Come on, Chicharron. No, Chicharron. And I tell stupid jokes, and he gets hit by a car, and I run back and revive him. And I'm like super invested in this psycho rooster. He is my amigo. And before that, there was Chorizo, the little doggy in the wheelchair. And, Boom Boom and Wapo, and see, I know their names, and Aluso, and it's fun, and they're my friends in the game, and I care more about them than a lot of the human characters in Far Cry 6. And, it feels in a lot of ways like playing with an animal, only much safer. Roosters can be dangerous. And that's cool, but I do think we need to take the lessons we're learning from these simulated interactions. I think that's a better term than a parasocial interaction, because it is two-way, right? It's not you talking to your TV and having absolutely no influence over what goes on the screen, right? It's a simulated interaction. We should take what we learn from those and apply it to our community interactions among other gamers. And really do that thing of, I want to be treated in the real world the way I'm treated in a game. So I'm going to do that to other people, right? And I really think that's possible in small doses, right? I'm just throwing it out there because what's happening is the opposite. What's happening is that people are getting more and more and more tense in real world interactions. And then they're escaping into these game worlds. And more and more they're becoming avoidant with real life socialization. And these are wonderful people I've talked to. I mean, these are people that deserve to have tons of friends and lots of support, you know? And I just think the problem is, I think the stuff in games is great. The way they manage to, make me suspend disbelief to the point that I'm talking to this digital rooster. That's amazing. That's super cool. But life should reflect that art more than it does. And I am questioning increasingly why we see this stuff in media, but people just go, "Oh, it's not real." And so they think it's not possible, right? I've never understood why people don't go, "I really like this character. I'm going to figure out what I like about this character and I'm going to emulate that in myself." Because that is how I've learned to be a less shitty, cooler person, right? Is see things I like in other characters and other people and not copy it, but emulate it. Go, okay, why does this work and how can I apply this to myself? And yet it seems a lot of people don't do that. And I do notice that there's something in sort of geek spaces that if there isn't a 100% chance of success, people don't try at all because they think there's no respawn point to give you another try. And the truth is there are respawn points. It just, you may have to try it with a different person instead of, that same person over and over and over and over and over again. And this is a complicated thing, but I want to start the conversation about this because I really think there's something we can do about this. And I really think if we stop, one, we got to stop demonizing games because those, simulated interactions that people call parasocial interactions are perfectly healthy. And we got to make the landing softer for people in the real world because they're people, right? And because I think we'd all like a little softer landing lately. But I'm curious about what you think about this idea of it being simulated interactions, not parasocial interactions. Because chicharron is real, man. Chicharron is real, and chicharron is love. I'm kidding. You guys know I'm kidding, right? I'm just being a little goofy to start the week. All right. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.